uniqueness of World War II. Up until now, we have reviewed World War II from a number of different angles and perspectives. If you want to know what they are, please view our first 2 videos in this series. Join us for more Liber-Tea and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as we journey through time. The best kind of time travel, easy, safe, and from the comfort of your own home, with no nasty side effects. There are some engaging and interesting insiders that make World War II unique. In episode 2, we talked a lot about strategy and how often it plays into war and wartime. Well, in World War II, strategy is what makes it different than many other wars. Hailed as one of the most costly, complicated, and varied conflicts ever, let's find out some of the outstanding features of this well-reported battle. Although we've already covered Blitzkrieg, Lightning War, it's so significant in this war that it's worth a repeat mention. Blitzkrieg was a tactical action plan that basically entailed armed forces, specifically Germany's Axis powers armed forces, attacking very quickly and with high force for a short period of time. Rapid, hard-hitting was what often weakened the opposing armies, bringing mostly victory. Although there are incidents reported where this was not the case, there are some, although unsuccessful events were few and far between. Since World War I, most battles were fought with stationary lines. What does this mean exactly? Wars were typically fought in lines. Fighting in lines is exactly how it sounds, soldiers side by side in one line. It was believed that this tactic was the best for allowing the largest deployment of firepower. Why is this important to know? Well, mainly because World War II strategy changed all of that. For the first time in recorded history, armies could attack from a long-range perspective, hitting targets other than within sight's range, such as factories, fueling operations, transportation lines, and special force patrols. However, this also meant that many more civilians' lives, homes, and families were devastated by this new technology. Of course, with all of this new strategy followed new manufacturing. In fact, according to some reports, more wartime materials and accessories were produced than at any other time in the history of fighting, and certainly world wars. More artillery, tanks, guns, missiles, planes, and cannons, among other equipment. It is recorded that many historians agree that a large part of the reason for the Allied powers' victorious outcome is due to the fact that their production of military stock was produced at a far greater output than that of the Axis powers. Maybe the most well-known uniqueness, or first, from this war was the use of nuclear power, which didn't happen until toward the end of this war, which we'll address in a later series video, but it's definitely worth a mention now in terms of the uniqueness of this war. Atomic power was developed by scientists during this war and used only twice, both in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Strategic long-range fighting is not the only unique trait of World War II. Special operations or special forces played a large role as well. The largest benefits of using special forces is the flexibility of its functions. It can be used in many different contexts, using a variety of methods and blueprints. Thus, surprise, a large contribution to the success of wartime, got a huge boost in World War II, with the rise in military units using highly trained and specific designated and equipped forces. Unconventional modes of deployment meant that both Axis and Allied forces were often left unable to defend against these surprise attacks. Special forces were also often used in espionage, covert operations, and manhunts. Included in this long-range tactical fighting was the development and common use of radar. Radar deserves an honorable mention in World War II because some historians believe it is what tipped the scales in the Allied forces' favor to end up winning the war for them overall. One of the most important advances in radar came from moving to higher frequencies, which resulted in a more clear and precise seeing with these radio waves. In layman's terms, this meant that something that was far off in the distance would echo back more intensive energy and greater resolution. Of course, we would be remiss if we didn't mention what was happening to the Jewish population at this time. It is the most central and horrific theme of this bloody war. And while most of us in the modern world understand that the deadly camps and abominable acts against humans were also against homosexuals, rebels against the Nazis, and those with disabilities, we can all agree that it was the Jewish population who suffered the most and widest devastation to anyone's society. Although most of what is recorded and known happened during the war, actual persecution and discrimination started back in 1933 by the Nazi Party against Jews. This is when Hitler came into power. Starting in 1935, German Jews were stripped of their citizenship and rights in Germany and were banned from marrying Germans at all. It also banned German women under the age of 45 to work in any Jewish households, an ominous foreshadowing of what was to come. In 1938, a well-known event called Kristallnacht, where Nazi followers destroyed synagogues, demolished Jewish-owned businesses, and arrested around 30,000 Jews from inside Germany and Austria, sending them to concentration camps and other horrific fates. 1 year later, the oppressive government would mandate that all Jews wear a yellow Star of David, a tactical, strategic move to cut off Jews from the rest of society and make them easier targets. Following the invasion in Poland, Nazi intentions were dramatically increased with forcing Jews to live in ghettos, completely segregated from all thriving parts of the city. Among other hardships, food shortages, work opportunities, and medical advantages were completely withheld, along with the ever-impending fear of being deported to concentration and death camps. In this modern world, it is very hard to imagine the constant, daily fear of a multitude of catastrophic dangers, but in this time for the European Jewish population, it was a daily occurrence. While it is well known that about 6 million Jews died in this deadly war, what is lesser well known is that about nearly a third of this total died within a span of 3 months during Operation Reinhardt, the deadliest phase of the Nazi agenda to fully exterminate the Jewish population. Operation Reinhardt, named after Reinhard Heydrich, a high-ranking official in the Nazi government, was a secret watchword to methodically carry out this evil plan, which was purported as a resettling scheme because, of course, Hitler couldn't blatantly call his plan an extermination plan. Lastly, in this episode of how World War II was so unique was how many advances, and specifically scientific discoveries and advances in medical treatments during this time. A few examples of this were the wide use of the flu vaccine in the U.S. military and the first reported successful use of penicillin on a soldier with blood poisoning. Although penicillin was first used to cure infections, it was later used to prevent sickness from bacterial contagions. Blood transfusion, specifically blood plasma transfusions, were another medical marvel, advanced and standardized in World War II. A U.S. surgeon named Charles Drew developed this whole system where they sent 2 sterile jars, one with water in it and one with freeze-dried blood plasma, and they'd mix them together. Reported by Rob Wallace, STEM education specialist at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. As you can tell, we are learning more and more about World War II, not only in tally of economic loss, but also sum total of lives destroyed. Join us for more Liber-Tea in our next episode in this fascinating World War II series, where we explore more of the timeline of these extraordinary, often destructive events. World War II still holds, for us, more insight and observations to help us better understand the world around us. Like, subscribe, and comment to follow along and share your opinions, facts, and ideas about how we learn from the past in order to grow and develop in the future. We want to hear from you.